Hello everyone, this is Andres Restart, and today we are talking about what appears to be a Nintendo Direct rumor that I do not want to believe. Why? Well, because I think it would have implications for a bigger, better Nintendo Direct that I'm expecting to happen in June, and so if this other Direct happens instead beforehand, then maybe we have to wait even longer for that bigger, exciting Nintendo Direct. Of course, if one happens, that does not guarantee the other would not. And also, we do not know for sure if this rumor is going to pan out or if it's even exactly about this other direct. So what exactly is going on? What are the implications? That's what we're diving into today. All I ask is that you sit back, hear me out, and let me know what you think at the end of the video in the comments below. So all this conversation is stemming from this tweet by Necrofelipe of Universal Nintendo on Twitter. All he said was, partner? Question mark. But many understand this to be a reference to a Nintendo Direct partner showcase, and it seems that he's questioning if a partner showcase would be happening soon, the implication being that he heard about something that's having him ask this question publicly. Now, for those who are unaware, a partner showcase is a smaller Nintendo Direct that for the most part doesn't have the big Nintendo games, it just focused on third-party games. And that doesn't mean a partner showcase couldn't be exciting. There are exciting third-party games, especially in this day and age of the Switch 2. The last partner showcase, we had games like Pragmata, Resident Evil, Final Fantasy. So sure, if there's a partner showcase happening in the next week or two, there could be some pretty cool third-party games shown off there. But right now, we are experiencing one of the longest droughts for a big general Nintendo Direct. The last one we got was last September, and given that this is early on to the Switch 2 era, and we still haven't seen too many ground-up Switch 2 games made by Nintendo, it really does feel like we need something more substantial, a series of substantial announcements made very soon, and a proper big general direct that has those first-party announcements. So if we were to be getting a partner showcase soon, that might have some implications that we would have to wait even longer. Or maybe not. We'll be getting into that, but let's first dissect a little bit more about what's going on with this partner showcase thing. Nash Weedle on Twitter actually responded to this tweet, retweeting it or requoting it, with just a face covering emoji as if something was said that is keeping his mouth shut, like there was something talked about perhaps behind the scenes. And so people saw both these things and started to think, oh, a Nintendo Direct partner showcase is about to happen soon. Especially when Attack the Backlog, who we've talked about quite a bit, and has one of the most reliable track records of hinting and teasing Nintendo Directs, he said, "Gonna free up a little bit of memory on my Switch 2 for next week," suggesting something is happening next week where he's going to want to have more storage space for it. What could that be? Well, Attack the Backlog later clarifies, "Sorry to come to this late, friends. Regarding this post, it's not about a partners, sorry to say. It's related to a specific game. I've only heard speculations and whispers about a partners so far. Hope that's not too demoralizing." So what I find interesting about this is that ATB here is talking about how a partner would be exciting, but a partner would not be exciting for me, so him suggesting that he has not specifically heard about a partner happening really soon actually gives me a lot more room for optimism. And what may be going on here actually is that there is a game that might have shown up in a partner that's going to get an update really soon. And what may further help to link this is that Nash Weedle, who had just responded to Necro about this potential partner thing, said this in response to ATB's clarification. "As my friend ATB comments, it doesn't refer to a partner, it's about a game. Unfortunately, I can't tell you more." And then Mario asks Nash, "Mario?" And Nash clarifies, no, it's not from Nintendo, nor is it an unannounced game. So it sounds like what ATB and Nash are talking about here is a third-party game that has already been announced, but there will be some kind of update for. So then I think about things that Attack the Backlog has heard about before. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, The Adventures of Elliot. These games already have release dates, so they don't need another release date trailer, but maybe they would want to release a new demo for The Adventures of Elliot. Is it possible that maybe that's going to drop next week so people can play it one more time before release. Another opportunity to promote the game, get people excited. For those who haven't played The Adventures of Elliot, by the way, this is like a really, really fun game, and I think if you are a Zelda fan, you probably would really appreciate this, or just an action RPG fan. It's very, very good. So, strongly recommend it, and if there is a demo coming out next week, if that is what this whole hullabaloo is all about, then yeah, stay tuned. It would be very awesome to play a little bit more for free. But then I also wonder, could it be related to maybe Elden Ring? We've been waiting on news for an Elden Ring release date. I don't think they would just shadow drop it next week, so it's probably not that. However, I will mention, there is this listing discovered here that apparently there is a retailer that has a date for July 10th for Elden Ring, which does make sense. Will that actually prove true? Is it just a placeholder? Hard to say for sure, but interesting to consider. Maybe it's DLC for a game like Resident Evil or something like that. That's another possibility. But what is interesting clarification here, Nash is saying that the things he has said with ATB do not seem to relate to what Necro is talking about when referencing a partner. So then, could a partner showcase be happening still? I just think it would be very odd for Nintendo to have another partner showcase, because we've seen in the past that when there is a partner showcase, it means there's not going to be a bigger Nintendo Direct soon. And I feel like we've already waited a very long time for the next proper, big, general Nintendo Direct that has those first-party announcements, that has the new Nintendo-made game announcements. I've brought this up several times before, I'm going to bring it up again. We have yet to see a Nintendo-made game using DLSS. The biggest, most exciting games that have come out for Nintendo Switch 2 from Nintendo are games that were in development for Switch 1 at first, such as Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is impressive, but that was a Switch 1 title simply enhanced on Switch 2 through a Switch 2 edition. The only game that we've gotten confirmation of that is a Nintendo-made title that's been using DLSS is Pokemon Legends ZA, and that's a Game Freak game. That's not really that impressive of a thing. And that's also a Switch 1 title that just also got some basic enhancements on Switch 2. Now, maybe Star Fox could be that first title that was made ground up for Switch 2, but it is still a budget title, and while I do think it is impressive, it is pretty small scale. Like, we're still just barely scratching the surface here in terms of seeing what Nintendo has to offer in terms of fully showcasing what they can do on the Switch 2. We're approaching the 1-year anniversary here of the Switch 2. We haven't seen those kinds of games from Nintendo yet. Not too many, at least. And the last time we got a big General Direct where there was a series of first-party announcements was last September. It's been a long time, especially considering this is early on for a generation. Now, you might argue, well, maybe there's just not that much that's going to be happening. Well, I would beg to differ. Nintendo's been pretty consistent. We have heard about things. The report that has been proving true about Star Fox and Splatoon Raiders this summer also suggests other things, such as Fire Emblem this summer, and also Ocarina of Time Remake later on in the year, and the Dust Bloods coming out later on in the year. And that's still officially slated for 2026, as is Fire Emblem, so there's still things to learn about that are already announced, but there's still some new things. There's supposedly some sort of Switch Sports announcement supposed to happen soon. So even if you don't want to believe there's anything else coming beyond that report that's been proving true, there's still that report that's been proving true, and there are a few games there that need to be announced, and quite honestly, yes, there's going to be more. This is how Nintendo always handles things. They have multiple releases per month. They're not all major releases per month, and there may be a month or two they skip, but overall, they are averaging close to 2 games per month throughout the year. So more announcements need to be made. Not to mention, the president of Nintendo literally just told us that. So during the most recent Investors Q&A session, the president of Nintendo, Shuntaro Furukawa, said this: "Ideally, we would like to deliver new titles more frequently and in a more timely manner. But as he pointed out, software development periods have come longer than before. Even so, we will continue to work on various initiatives to ensure that many titles can be played on Nintendo Switch 2 by devising improvements to our development system and development process." We've talked about this before. It's one of the reasons why I theorize the Ocarina of Time remake is happening, because that's being made by a third pillar of Zelda development, so they can have a third pillar now, not just the open air Zeldas, not just the 2D top-down Zeldas, but the big, ambitious remake Zeldas. Or it's also why we've talked about the whole Donkey Kong Bonanza situation, how from what we've heard of the rumors, that was actually made by an offshoot of the Mario Odyssey team, younger members forming a new team, meaning that moving forward, you have a team that's still focusing on 3D Mario, but you now have this other team that can make Donkey Kong and whatever else they choose. But continuing, regarding the future, we are preparing a variety of new titles for Nintendo Switch 2, regardless of whether they are so-called major titles or not. In addition, we have new titles prepared for the second half of this fiscal year, in addition to those already announced, and we will provide details at the appropriate time. But what is that appropriate time? We know the titles are coming, we know there's announcements that need to be made. What is that appropriate time? You would think that appropriate time would be this June. We've waited a significant amount of time, and if there is a partner showcase truly happening within the next couple weeks, based off history, that would imply we have to wait a few more months before the next big direct, which would be infuriating, personally, and it would mean we would just be left in the dark until it's like a few weeks before the next game Nintendo wants to announce, and then they do that. Like, yeah, the Star Fox Direct was cool, but I think most of you watching will agree it's about time we get that bigger presentation that has a series of announcements, show us what's to come throughout the year. Like recently, we just learned Nintendo's going to have to increase the price of the Switch 2 across the board. Wouldn't it make sense for Nintendo to at least sell people what the Switch 2 has to offer in the future by announcing what they're actually bringing out in the future? I would think so. There's a reason why, in the past, for every single prior generation, video game companies, Nintendo included, have announced many games to come out in advance, so people know what they're buying into. I think that logic should still apply now. I say that, and I also recognize that there have been quicker turnarounds, Nintendo's been getting away with it, and it's been working well in some cases. So I'm not saying there can't be some quick turnarounds here, but I think both things can be true. They can still have the cool surprises like the Star Fox thing, and still also tell us about the future at some point in this year. We do technically know about Pokemon Winds and Waves coming out next year, but that is just one game, and that's handled by Pokemon Company, not Nintendo, even though they are connected. Now, is it theoretically possible that Nintendo has a partner showcase this month and still has a direct a week or two later in June? It's possible, I'm sure. Nintendo has had multiple directs happen in quick succession, but we've never quite gone a partner showcase and then a big general just a few weeks later. But strange things have been happening. This Star Fox Direct was a first as far as I'm aware, where they literally announced a new game with a Nintendo Direct about the game. And so perhaps Nintendo is really thinking about just keeping us on our toes, keeping us guessing, wanting to surprise. And I think that's all well and good, but I also think a lot of fans are frustrated by not knowing what's to come. So I do think there needs to be a balance here. And also, let me remind you all, we look at the history of Zelda anniversary announcements, they don't happen in February. But you want to know when they do consistently happen? In June. So, hopefully we at least get that big Zelda anniversary announcement, Ocarina of Time remake, which has been widely reported at this point. I would assume that would happen in a big Nintendo Direct, which there is a lot of history of happening in June. Now, they have skipped some Junes, but considering they skipped the big Direct for early this year, and we've been waiting since September, you would think it would finally happen. You would think. But regardless of what happens, I will be covering it here, telling you what I think, analyzing what's to come. But let me know what you all think in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, and you haven't subscribed already, I would very much appreciate your subscription. But I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.